Fat bottom girls. Well, probably it's not probably kind of appropriate now, but he's gonna put this one. Welcome everybody. Welcome, JP. It's been a long time. Good to see you. Kevin, welcome. You're probably wondering, what's that music? It's mariachi, Cinco de Mayo today. So we're going to celebrate with some tequila. Unfortunately, it's a little bit early for us, but we'll get in that spirit. Adam, good to see you here. Thank you. So we've just opened up the channels. We're waiting for a couple of minutes for people to join in, and then we're going to kick off the session. Thank you for your time. It's greatly appreciated. You're welcome to say hi in the chat panel. Let the rest of the other members know where you're logging in from. So where's my chat panel? Okie dokie. So we're listening to Queen in mariachi style, recommendation from Michael. So let's just wait for another 30 seconds. So thank you everybody who's joined so far. We have started this online series of online community stories where I'm going to be interviewing and having honest chats with individuals that are, one, in my opinion, through my research and through the work that I've done, doing a really good thing, and which I hope is going to be inspiring for most of you. And I honestly think that I want to make sure that these are honest, candid, vulnerable conversations when leaders that are in the same shoes as you are doing something that is different, that is kind of trying to build strong communities. Okie dokie. So although I would like to continue listening to some mariachi, I much rather listen to Michael. So everybody, welcome to our online community stories. And I am very, very, very excited to welcome Michael Owens to the session. Michael, welcome.
How's it going, man?
How's everything?
I got my tequila.
Oh, you got your tequila?
Yeah, you said we were going to be drinking this morning. That's the only reason why that's the only reason why I agreed to do this, man. Come on, where's your bottle?
Okay, I'm gonna. It's a little bit early for us.
Yeah,
Michael.
No, it's definitely a little too early. We should have scheduled this. I forgot that your audience is mostly in the UK. We could have done this in the afternoon if it was more US based, and then we really could have drank tequila. But maybe that's what's in my glass.
Oh, perfect. But that's your glass of water. That's great. Excellent, Michael. So, Michael, welcome to our first episode of Online Community Stories. I am really, really, really excited. So, everybody, I'm just going to give you a brief intro, but I'll let you introduce yourselves. Michael Owens is the CEO of the Influence Group, an organization that I have been following for many years. We've have done some work together in the past, and every kind of 2-3 months, Michael and I had a chat, have chats and understand about what's going on. And because Michael is an individual that I truly admire. I think he's a person that an entrepreneur, as I call them, that is constantly reviewing what's new, what's hot in the market. He's got a keen eye for detail, for making sure that things look fresh, sweet, nice, and excellent. I really, really like the way that you present your business, the way that you present your brand. So I just really publicly wanted to congratulate you for that, Michael. I think the work that you've done over the years is amazing. So do you want to give us a brief intro on you, the story, how you started, and then we could just delve into the session?
Sure. Thanks, Ricardo. And again, I've been a fan of the work that you've been doing, and that's why we connected a long time ago. I am the co-founder and managing partner. We don't use terms like CEO. We're a pretty small, flat organization, but we started about 8 years ago, and we produce what in the industry, I guess, is known as more of the hosted buyer format live events. Well, that's what we did prior to the pandemic. Our niche is the built environment. We focus on all different building typologies, from retail, restaurant, hospitality, healthcare, education. So we bring together buyers and sellers in those markets, specifically around buildings, design, construction, and real estate. So our format of events are 3-day experiential events that are, very strong content. But of course, the key driving factor are those connections, bringing buyers and sellers together. So we've been, had a really strong run up until the beginning of last year. But in that time, we've actually reinvented our business. And of course, like a lot of people, I guess, that are listening right now, have found ways to engage our audience digitally. And I don't think I would have said this last year, but I think I would say now that we're definitely a stronger organization coming out of the pandemic than we were leading into it. And that's, shocking. And I'm pretty excited about where we're going now.
Good, Michael. So I guess that's kind of a very good start. And I think pretty much most of the majority of the kind of event organizers and the majority of our community, of my community, the people I engage with, are organizing events, traditional event format or exhibitions. Mm-hmm. Not so many have the one-to-one model. And so, Michael, tell us a little bit about the situation when obviously you've organized series of events, 7, 8 per year. The pandemic hit. Of course, from my point of view, when I initially said, oh my God, if this is going to be affected, if this industry is going to be affected, the one-to-one model, people are going to be really in deep problems. So tell us about what happened, Michael, because the reason why I want to do what I wanted to kind of highlight that is because you were kind of probably the first few individuals that started binging on online sessions, webinars, demos, everything. Although you already were someone that was kind of very, very intrigued and inquisitive about new technology and everything. To tell us what happened there, and then what happened at that point.
Well, I mean, I'm not the only person here. I mean, I think that you can see, I think a lot of people, in our industry joined the guild groups and, in the WhatsApp groups, really trying to figure out and understanding, what can be done virtually or digitally. So, like a lot of my peers out there, we basically dug into every platform out there, did 1 million demos, talked to as many people as possible. And to be honest, I never really engaged with the industry. It's funny, we bring people together in our industries, producing content and events, but I never spent a lot of time getting to know and connecting with people. So that was it was a great opportunity this past year to make a lot of great connections and learn and do that. And a testament to you, of course, you started running those roundtables last year, your mastermind series. And we may have called our roundtable series that. I don't know, maybe I should admit that on tape. I don't know if you can sue me from Colombia to the States. I think I may be safe for a little bit on that one. But yeah, I mean, we basically tested out a lot of different things. Some things did not work. But I think that's the most important thing, is that we really leaned in and we tried all different things. But back to your thing on the one-on-one format, that's the big, that was the big thing. If you're just a straight up conference organizer promoting content and you're taking marketing dollars, we're essentially most of the time dealing with heads of sales and national accounts. And those people, pay us money to get in front of potential new business. So it's not as easy to deliver that digitally. And the only way to do that is to be really close to your audience. And we really, we were close to our audience and we thought we were closer. But I do think that in this past year, our team, everyone, and it's not just me, really leaned in, got closer to our audience. And because we were closer to our audience, we were able to figure out how to, make things work digitally.
Okay, I think, Michael, there is something really important. Many of the people that are actually at this point in time live, event organizers, they have to go into mitigation at the point where you have to tell your sponsors, we're going to go virtual, whatever that might be. At this point in time, everyone is now trying to see how they can tremendously add value to their audiences. and to the sponsors, in particular with the one-to-one model. Of course, before with your live events, you booked your hotels, you invited people on your cost. So everyone attended, the end user attended free. So it was all about the sponsor. So the reason why I think this is going to be so valuable for the rest of the people out there is because you might have experienced ways in which you're going to be able to add value to your sponsors. We're going to talk about that a little bit later when there are some sponsors which are more suitable for the virtual model, some aren't.
100%, yeah.
But so it's interesting you say that you thought you were close to your audience, that you understood your audience well, but tell us a little bit more about it. How did you go about that, and how did you go closer? Well,
I have to take it a step back. So, the history is myself and my partner, Michael McCarthy, and a number of people on our team have been working together for, Influence is 8 years, but we worked together at a previous company we started, and we've been in these markets for a very long time. So we do know our audience pretty well. A lot of our sponsors and individuals that attend our events, have become friends. So we're very, close in the industries that we're in. So even if it's retail design and construction, healthcare design and construction, a lot of the sponsors overlap. So we are close to our audience, even if we're doing one event per year. We were doing content, our blog was pretty active and other things, and we put out reports. But beyond that, bringing people together, physically or digitally, it was only physical. So last year, when the pandemic first hit, luckily we were able to pull off only one event, and literally it was on the eve. It was March 1st through the 3rd, and then we realized that things were done. But we had an event in April that was supposed to take place. So like everybody else, we're like, can we move it online? Which we did. And we tried to do the one-on-one meeting format with pre-scheduled meetings in advance, and it was a disaster. It was a disaster mostly because of technology that we decided to use, because it was a platform that was meant for live events that said that they were going to, layer virtual. It was half-baked, and that failed. But also in a live event one-on-one meeting setting, you need to be there. I don't want to say there's a gimmick, but there is, you're giving people access to a venue for 3 days and stuff like that. They're there. You don't know if somebody's going to show up or not. And if you have a vendor on one end of that, waiting on the other end of a screen for a meeting and that doesn't take place, it's not a good feeling. So we quickly realized that the technology, at least from what we saw, was kind of half-baked, but it wasn't just about the technology and trying to replicate what we had done previously online. We went back and, of course, dug back into buyer persona research, right? We went out, and typically it would be myself and the production team who would have those conversations, our content team. But we, unfortunately, like a lot of other companies, had to let go a good amount of our staff last April. And I'm not going to get into that, but as you can imagine, that was a very tough thing to do. But the team that we did keep, our core team, we actually had them involved in actually reaching out and having those conversations, and people in roles that were not traditionally doing that. And of course, we gathered so much valuable information about what the customer actually wanted digitally, but also is a great opportunity for our team to even understand our audience better. So now it's like, I speak to our people on our audience team, even in operations, and we're talking about getting back to live events, what we've been doing. And they're just so more in tune with what our audience really, what their interests are, how do they want to be engaged by sponsors and salespeople? What do they want to do digitally versus in person? So I just feel that as an organization, we're a lot smarter about what our audience wants. And our audience now, we're a lot closer to, because we've been running these roundtables on a weekly basis to understand what their concerns are. So, we can spin off, content really quickly, and they're looking to us as a resource. We're really helping them to be better in their careers, in their jobs. And really, that's our why. Like, that's what we serve. That's the purpose that we serve. So I think that was the conversation I think a lot of us, of entrepreneurs, as you like to say, had to realize, is that, we're not just, you either are an event company or you serve a greater purpose, which is for us, is to really connect and inform the industries that we serve. It's not just through events.
Which is kind of very, sometimes, and I was going to ask you, who do you refer to as your customer? Is that the vendor, the sponsor, or the end user? Who's your customer?
So that's an interesting question. If our sponsors are listening now, of course, they're our customers. Like, they're our loyal customers, and without them, we wouldn't be here. But I think they will all understand and respect that we always have to put the audience first. Because if we don't put the audience first, they're not going to come. So the audience, of course, is the most important group that we need to focus on. And I think that's where some of the traditional event organizers, the trade shows, which is a dying thing, we can get into that, is that, they're too focused on the legacy title sponsors and giving them their board. And that's why no one's going to show up to those things anymore. There was dying before that, but it's like a movie theater. It's once people start realizing there's a better thing out there, it's just going to be a stale thing of the past. And that's why that was our motto. If you go on Influence Group website right now, which unfortunately still needs to be updated to reflect our more diverse offerings. If you go to our event websites, it'll demonstrate that. But we say, like, our tagline has always been the opposite of a trade show. And that resonates with everybody, because no one ever goes to a trade show and walks away inspired or feeling great.
Yeah, and Michael, I think I want to kind of touch a little bit more on the buyer personas, because I know that everyone I speak to, when I ask them the question, do you have a buyer personas? Do you have buyer persona document? How far you've done? And the general answer is, yeah, we have the beginnings of that. We kind of have some of that. You did have some of that, which we kind of did some work on that. Now, what does it really mean to properly have a buyer persona set up? And you serve 7, 8 different verticals. How much work is involved in that? Because I think that's something that many people in the industry do not pay enough attention to.
Yeah, so I'll give you credit for that. So, and for people tuning in, we started working with Ricardo. Well, let me tell the story. I mean, because this actually goes back into an audience and speaking to your tribe, right? So I don't know when it was, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, not too long after we actually started Influence Group, and I'm realizing that we needed to really shift direction on our marketing, and I was looking for ideas out there, and I stumbled upon something that you wrote on the Bright Bowl blog, and I read it and I forwarded it to my partner Mike, and we're like, oh my God, this guy knows exactly the things that we've been talking about. And I read a few things more, and what did I do? I reached out to you. We had a call. Next thing you know, I met you in Boston at the Inbound HubSpot conference. You somehow conned me into signing up with HubSpot. That's a whole conversation. No, I'm joking. We're still on HubSpot, and it definitely, we wouldn't be where we are without it. But you were at that point, we started working with you. You got us on there, and we were pretty dismissive about we went through the exercise of doing the buyer persona, but it didn't really click for me at that point, because I felt that we knew our audience and things were going well. But especially now, as we moved into digital, and we had to go back and really understand that, let's take one example. We're in the retail market. Retail is very diverse. We can have, and speaking to your UK audience, which I know is majority, you can have Tesco, and then you can have the Boots Alliance, and then you can have Exxon Mobil, and all these different ones that classify as retail. Those are totally different organizations. We had a lot of that kind of lumped together. So we really went down, not just by role, like head of real estate design, but we went by category. We really segmented our database and understood things, and started our marketing and even creating specific things for those groups. We bring them together under one large umbrella, but when you get closer to them and give them things that they want that are really specific to their needs, we're just seeing a lot better engagement.
Right. So Michael, what did you discover that you didn't, what was it that you discovered that you thought you knew, but you didn't know? I don't know if that made any sense, but is there anything particular, and how did that influence what you are doing now digitally?
Well, last year, I mean, the one thing that we realized right away is that our audiences, at least, did not want to be sold to. So that was a tough thing to, have to go back and explain to some of our sponsors, that especially had signed up for a live event that they thought they were going to get in front of potential new business. So we had to change the conversation and say, look, it's not right now, but if they're going to come down the line and be ready to buy again at some point. So we had to really change the model around, and not everybody was on board with that. But we did see a lot of our peers in the industry just kind of plow ahead with virtual events and, virtual expo halls and all this other stuff, which they knew wasn't going to work. And, we did try some of those things. We did do them. I'm not going to say that we didn't. But I think where we found success and where we kept going is that we're very open and honest with our sponsors and our audience that we were testing out new things. And it's kind of that, that MVP model, that minimal viable product. is that you got to keep on, you got to launch things, test them, and keep on refining them. So what we landed on was, and this was based on the feedback that we got from our audience, is that they're not really interested in showing up to a virtual event. They may tune in and check out the content probably on their own time, especially when we were planning, we're having conversations in the summer about where people were going to be last fall. So we put it out there. We promoted our sponsors. We got creative, had them create their own commercials, and we tried to get them stage time, but not in a salesy way. But what really we found, what people really wanted was the ability to come together and really problem solve. So we went and found out the topics that were most important to our audiences. And we started our mastermind series where each week we limit them to 10, 12 people, and we brought them together. And where we realized at first was, we said, all right, we can drop in a sponsor here and there. And that works sometimes if the sponsor could add value, if they're strategic.
Right.
What we found out is that, it doesn't work if it's somebody, again, that's looking for transactional, that's more product-based. So we refined the product and we relaunched it, and we only, make it available to companies that we feel that can really bring something, not a salesperson, but can actually move the conversation along. And, we've been running, we just got our most recent survey results, and it's been really favorable. And we've actually now been exposed to a lot of people that have never been to our live events. They're really excited to come back. So we're using these roundtables to, of course, engage people to want to come to the live event, and obviously keep the community tighter. So,
so Michael, that must be a very hard pill to swallow when you live and then your growth comes from your sponsors. So going into this sort of environment where you just basically probably are running predominantly these live events for the audience predominantly, not necessarily sponsored at some point in time. How long did that last? And then how was that journey then?
Well, I'm sorry, what do you mean? How long?
Were all of these sessions sponsored? Because when you said that you were thinking about bringing some of the sponsors, that means that probably you run some of these live sessions unsponsored or not sponsored.
Yeah. I mean, if it makes sense, we bring a sponsor in, but right. That's not always the case. So I'll give a good example is we have a very strong, our restaurant spaces audience. We bring together all the heads of design development from all the major restaurant chains, McDonald's, Chipotle, Taco Bell. We run, for 5 weeks, we were running weekly roundtables on the future of drive-throughs. There's some companies that are great fits that can help them out, but are really, not that strategic. There are other ones that are. So we would drop in a sponsor, one of our strategic partners in there. And it's extremely valuable to the attendees. If it's not going to add value to the conversation, we won't bring them in. But we of course have a set of strategic sponsors that can add value. And we brief them that it's not a sales opportunity, it's a thought leadership opportunity. And it's more about moving the industry along.
I think that's kind of actually very, very interesting, Michael, because everyone, now the discussion around communities is about the value that you provide and how much can you stick with what your audience told you is what they want and how you are going to figure things out. Because basically that happens when you're building communities. You might need to stick with it for 3-6 months, churning content, putting value out content. It's not about quantity, it's about the quality. We all know that. And that also reflects to sponsors. If it's a sponsor that is not really truly going to add that value, then you might as well have to not let him or them go, but just wait until there's the right opportunity to bring them along, right?
Oh, yeah. And look, I've been in this industry, even prior to what we're doing now for 25 years. And it takes it takes some balls sometimes to be able to tell a sponsor no, and a lot of people don't do that, especially in this past year. They're like, okay, let's do that. And I'm not going to say that sometimes we've made some decisions that we regret looking back, saying, it's probably not the right thing for our audience. But I do believe coming out of this right now, and for our industry to especially to evolve, that's really important. You really have to make sure that you're not taking the sponsor and running and putting them in front of the audience.
And by the way, I just really want to highlight something to the audience and whoever's listening or will be listening to this. It's not that Michael and the influence group decided to just then do roundtables and run with them. is the fact that they have tried and tested pretty much every single option that they thought they had, right? Am I right saying that, Michael?
Yeah, and we're doing webinars.
You've gone back around, 360 again into deciding what the roundtables is. It's just basically, Kevin was asking a question about beyond buyer-seller meetings, have you done anything peer-to-peer? And beyond roundtables, enabling one-to-one peer meetings as part of communities you're building.
Yeah, so that's a good question. I mean, peer-to-peer, I mean, for example, this Friday, we're running a roundtable for our higher education market, which there's no vendors. It's just we're bringing universities together to talk about the fall, looking to the fall when office workers are coming back and how they can share things. So we're constantly just organizing things, bringing the audience together. Nothing to do with sponsors, unless it makes sense for us to bring one in that can actually be, useful or helpful. So we're doing another one next week where we have a sponsor that does AI and healthcare construction. We'll bring one of their technologists in there to talk to the group. But one-to-one meetings with peers, no, not necessarily, unless someone's looking for a connection. I think the one thing that I would share about us and our model is we're very hands-on, our team. So the people that know us, whether it's attendees or our partners or sponsors, always reach out to us looking to make connections. Hey, do you know someone that does this and that? So I think that's something that's been, part of our success, is that our team is very hands-on, and we always make it known that, look at us as a resource throughout the year where we can make connections. If you're looking obviously for a vendor, we want to be that person that can help them out. But also, if you're looking for somebody that has experience working on a specific project, again, a lot of the stuff is construction and real estate based.
Yeah, and I think obviously let's move into, or we have already moved into the area and the section, your version of pivot, what it meant, and now obviously you already said what it is, and now how is that looking moving forward when we're getting into live events back in the fall and the autumn? Now, what is now influence groups rethought model for the post-pandemic era?
Freak out, because now we're trying to figure out what are we doing between digital. I mean, that's the truth. And I see the question from Sean there, like, I'm planning on hosting live events again. So we actually have 8 events planned for this fall. So, wow. And that's our whole calendar, which we used to have spread out across the year. So, next year you can do a webinar for me on burnout and alcoholism, so we do have 8 events, but we're going to continue to do these roundtables. And I think we're just going to continue to refine them. We're trying to, we're not sure how often we're going to do them. As live events get back and people do start getting more out, just traveling again. And let's assume that here again in the States, I know things are different all over, but things are looking pretty positive for us right now based on the signups and we've running regular surveys with our audience to kind of test how comfortable they feel about coming back to live events. But it's not going to, it's definitely a part. We're not going to go back and just go back to live events. No way. And we're investing now in our team to actually do a lot more digital stuff. So we're actually building out a little studio. We're going to launch a LinkedIn Live series that starts on the 16th, so a week from tomorrow. We have we're pretty excited about that. And that's something that we're just doing just for the audience right now. We're going to try to figure out, can we bring some sponsors in? But it's a 20-minute, weekly show on LinkedIn for our restaurant audience where it's called Disrupt, and we're going to interview some of the key disruptors in that market. So, and if that takes off, we're looking to do that in all the other markets. And it's all just about, showcasing kind of the true innovators in the spaces that we operate in.
So, Michael, I think it would be really interesting to kind of, if it's okay, to outline your extended breadth of products, or call it touch points with your community. So before, you had your live events, amazing experiences, big names, amazing branding, amazing experience, high fives, chest bumps, and all that stuff. Really good content. I think it's important to clarify, Michael has been one of those individuals that has always been committed to, if it's not really going to add value to his audiences, he's not going to write one blog a week. It has to be right. It has to be perfect. And I've witnessed that before. So you had your content, your community, your blogs, your live events. How does that look like now? What you have? What is you call it your product offering, in which you're having your touch points with the market and with your community? Your 365, essentially.
Yeah, that's a good question, because I don't have the right answer for it. Our blogs has always been a thing where, we put out written content. A lot of it prior to the pandemic was always, okay, we would go into our live event. We actually would invest, I guess for people that are not familiar with what our live events are like, we do invest, more than a traditional conference, just from the staging, LED walls, a lot of lights, production wise, even if our events on average size are 250 people. So they're not large expos by any means, and that's by design, but they're high quality. And we would bring in, of course, some big name speakers, some entertainment. Our last event that we had Weezer performing for 300 people. Rivers Cuomo, the lead singer, doing an acoustic set, and we have the CEO of Taco Bell. We have some pretty big names, and it looks, we make it look sharp. So of course, our blog, we then drip out that content with high, well-produced videos. We put it up there. But that was mostly what our blog was, and then we do that for a few months after the event, kind of drip it out. And then of course, for the leading up to the live event, we would write some original content. I don't know if we're going to do as much written content moving forward. And I say that now, and maybe I'll come back and regret saying that, only because there's just a lot better people out there doing it, right? I look at our restaurant industry, there's a lot of great news sources out there that break news and do really investigative journalism in there. So I think where we serve is really kind of connecting people, and we will push some stuff out here and there, but I think we're more leaning into the video content and connections, just through our roundtables.
Which, by the way, to everyone in the audience, the fact that you're not putting a blog post or anything, that doesn't mean that a video or an interview like this or an interview, that's pretty damn good content, right?
Oh no, it is, and we're actually we're redoing all of our websites right now, because like a lot of people, our websites were really built for live events. So we have an insights section. It's not called blog anymore, so we're calling it Insights, which will be a mix of written content and our video content.
Yeah, so I think for clarity purposes, you do still have the Insights section. You obviously have your live event, or you will have your live events in the fall, but you have now launched the Almost Live sessions, right?
Well, no, Almost Live was what we did in the fall. So our brands are retail spaces, health spaces, restaurant spaces. So we did restaurant spaces Almost Live. So, and it was a 3-day, 2-day virtual event. 3 hours a day. And, it was what we did to bring the community together. I don't see us doing that again. Right. Maybe, if hopefully you don't have a reason to do that again. But we're kind of not really into the multi-day or longer than 1 hour format.
So that was like the Almost Live was like almost your mitigation.
It definitely, it was a mitigation thing, but it wasn't just that. So what we did was we worked with our companies and said, we're going to do the Almost Live. That was the content piece. So it taught, we brought the key industry leaders together. We had presentations, some inspiring talks. We then we had all of our sponsors create their own low budget commercials that we ran on the main screen instead of, the virtual booth. So we try to make it creative and fun. We then, of course, published the best commercials like a Super Bowl. And we also then had our roundtable series that went with that as well. So that gave the sponsors ability to be part of the conversation. And we also did a number of webinars, and we're still doing them. As a matter of fact, we just booked 2 webinars yesterday from 2 different companies. So we have that coming in. We're just trying to figure out, how often we want to do them. And the reality is, and I'd like to hear from the audience, is, webinar numbers are not easy, man. Like the numbers are, sometimes we see last year, of course, the numbers were high, but they've been trending down. And we've definitely tried to up the production value on them. We have, so we make it more, episodic, and we've branded them. There's music, there's bumpers, it's multi cameras. We've been using Hopin for our webinars. But that's another thing. We're constantly evolving that.
So Michael, you've touched about constantly, and that's kind of, I think, for the benefit of the audience. So yes, they're doing Influence Group have been testing a variety of ways. Now they're going into the LinkedIn Live environment. So that's still a very valuable piece of content to engage. The important thing is that like now everything, and a lot of companies are now moving into, when they're going digital first and all these kind of trends, it's video. Is the future is video, high quality production, so that your audience kind of really understands that like you really value that that content yourselves, and then you want your audience to value it as much as I do. You have been changing a little bit on the subject. You have been a prolific tester, checking technology. You constantly keep on asking, have you heard about this? Have you heard about that? In some cases, I actually find it difficult to keep up with you sometimes. How do you go about it? What are you looking for, Michael, when you're constantly trying to look at technology tools, everything?
Well, I mean, I'll be honest, that was, and I kind of had to stop myself from thinking about it. Like last year, I was like, I tested out everything. And, if you talk to like June and Courtney on our team, they'd probably be like, oh, Jesus, Mike's sending through another thing and you have to stop. And I agree with them. But, of course, last year when we were investing in this and trying to go, we wanted to make sure we get it right. I don't know. I mean, I definitely, shout out and I see Ashley in there. I don't know him, but he said, thanks for the Guild Group mention. That was an amazing resource. The Creo group, and also other members of our team were in there looking at that. The Collingwood team, we work with them. And as a matter of fact, I was introduced to them through your interview with Julian back then. I think I watched that 2 or 3 times, and I was like, that was another thing. Like, oh my God, we need to speak to them because we were, we needed some guidance. So, it's just really getting out into your network, and it's the same thing that we all do, right? Like we promote bringing people together to figure out how to be better at what we do. So I think it's just really being curious and talking to people in the industry is the most important thing to do.
And then I think that for me, the aspect that I generally try to encourage CEOs and entrepreneurs is that like they need to be out there, honestly checking, reviewing technology, because things are advancing so much, and sometimes the use of certain pieces of technology or certain pieces of, you can get a lot of ideas from that sort of, or innovate in your organization. So how do you stay on top of all these things and stay fresh, Michael, in a highly competitive industry? Because obviously the one-to-one meetings, there's organizations doing this already, but how do you, experimentation, curiosity?
Well, I think we'll go back to the live events, because again, like the digital stuff, I don't want to, pretend like we've got this all figured out. Right. We've had some success. We've had some things that are still working out, but we were obviously very successful in our live events, and don't get me wrong, like we're sticking with digital, but we're really excited to get back to live. It's experience. It's actually being human, right? And I think that's the one thing that when you look at like stuffy B2B events, and that's our motto, the opposite of a trade show, taking the boring out of B2B. When we first launched Influence, like we need to have some personality. There needs to be a vibe. There needs to be an experience. And I think that that's going to be even more important now as we come out of this pandemic. I've spoken to we're hiring right now, and I'm seeing resumes coming through from some of these traditional conference players. And the word on the street of what I'm hearing is a lot of events that they were planning, traditional conferences, are not happening in the fall because they know that nobody's just going to pay $2,000 just to walk in and sit there and listen to content. We've all realized we can get content like this. So if you're going to go out to an event, people want to make sure that they have something worthwhile. They want to go to a destination that's actually maybe revitalizing. We've all had a lot of, stress over the last year, but also from a business development standpoint, people want to make sure that they're going to be in front of an audience that is actually qualified and actually have a reason to buy things. So the model that we have, I think, is so important. And going back, I know I'm going off topic here, but for us, it's every year we want to raise the bar. And of course, that sometimes gets more expensive. Like, and again, for people that are not familiar with Influence Group, like we've done things where we take over a hotel and we rebrand it to the Influence Hotel, and we put a Ferris wheel in the middle. We have Run DMC perform. And again, it's for 200 or 300 people. We figure out ways to make that work. And sometimes, if you go into an agency and you say that, and they're going to tell you the budget's some ridiculous number, there's always a way. You go direct and you do that. So we're a scrappy, we don't take no for an answer team. And I think that's what's exciting. And that's why, our team works really well together. And we're always looking to raise the bar.
Now, Michael, just you obviously talked a lot about your team, and I've met all your team. They're an amazing bunch. What are there any particular new skill sets that they had to develop in order to nurture and bring their communities closer, serve them better? How does that work at a general sense?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, you know, our teams now over the past year really had to, again, on the marketing side of things, had to really lean in and understand how to, you know, really get our database segmented and up to date, you know, freshened up. You know, from a client success standpoint, with all the things that we have going on now every day, that's been a major shift for us. So, you know, a lot of reskilling and just changing our procedures. And now, you know, again, like I said earlier, it's being honest, is as we're getting back to ramping up for 8 live events, it's us trying to figure out how to maintain that. And, you know, we're actively hiring. So if anybody's looking for a marketing or sales role, we're looking for you.
Very good.
And
by the way, the Guild Group has a job section that's almost...
I posted in there too. Yeah.
Yeah.
For it.
And by the way, we're not... I don't know what any company mentioned in this conversation has not been premeditated or anything like that. It's just because we are truly connected with other This is what we call interconnected communities, that we serve each other.
But again, I'll say that it's been a great resource. Yeah. I don't know much about the company. Obviously, I saw that your interview with the founder in there, Ashley, and I saw him in the chat. But definitely a great resource. Maybe we should get some kickbacks. We got to work something out in the future for these things, though. If we're going to plug that.
I'm going to use this for some marketing, actually. Yeah.
So Adam, I've connected with Adam too. Adam Rowley there is asking the percent of likelihood of person events this year. I mean, we're planning, like I said, 8 events this fall. We have co-located 2 of them. So I will say that to kind of share the risk. And for our model, you know, since it's hosted, we are covering the full cost, the rooms, food and beverage and everything. So it's more of a risk. So I think another thing that I think that we have learned out of the pandemic is moving forward, I don't think we'll ever launch a new market without doing a lot of digital stuff first, where in the past is like, we're just going to do a lot of phone research and validate it and say, let's put it out there. Where luckily we never had to, you know, launch something and it not work out, but all of our launches have been successful. But I guess that also makes sense because a lot of them are all connected in the same, you know, same industries.
Then I think that's kind of when you highlighted that, Michael, I think that was kind of very, very valid, that many organizers believe that any activity that they do digitally, whether it's webinars, whether it's lives, whatever you call it, but any activity that they do digitally, number one, it has to be sponsored. Number two, they have to monetize it immediately. But that's not necessarily true, you know. And testament to that is when you're highlighting that you would never go into taking any high risks of booking venues when you're launching in new markets and everything without doing a bunch of digital. That is kind of your, I guess, you see what I'm saying? That's kind of where you get your value add from digital, from actually being closer to your audience, being connected to them, adding value, asking what they want, and therefore then progressively getting into the live environment. That's kind of the epitome of the proper 365 constantly touch points with your audience, right?
Oh yeah, I don't think anybody that's tuning in right now would say otherwise. I think that that's definitely the way that it's going to be moving forward. And you know, going back to like the human element, and you and I were speaking about this just the other day. For those in the States, and I don't know, like talk show host in Colombia or that, but I think, you know, everything has changed, right? Like when you look at Jimmy Kimmel here in the States, or Jimmy Fallon, or whoever the hosts are, Graham Nash, is that the name? I don't know, in the UK. Graham Norton, there we go. I don't know how he did it, but people got used to seeing them like in their homes, like more human. I think they actually got closer to their audiences. Now, as they're going back into their studios, they're keeping some of those elements of what they did during the pandemic. I don't see it ever kind of getting back. And even just the way their monologues are, it's just a lot more human. So I think that, like everything else, it's just going to have to, you know, people are going to expect things differently from their events. They're going to expect things differently when they go back into the office. And I also do believe that with a lot of companies now with a hybrid workforce, meaning that, they may only have them come into the office a few times a month or a couple times a week. Once they shed their real estate, right? Because a lot of companies are really interested in that, and we run roundtables weekly on it. They're going to send a lot of people to a lot more events, but they're still going to be selective. So I think there's an opportunity for our industry too, to benefit from that, for people that are not going to be going to the office as often, they may want to go out to a conference or to some, to a meeting to be with their people that speak their language, their tribe, and their companies would be happy to send them out there because they'll learn and they'll also get to, do some business since they're not spending as much money on, lights and desks and everything else.
I think that's kind of something where I've spoken to other people as well, are seeing big opportunities with how are they going to fit their events with places where companies, group registrations or anything, they can have like almost like co-working spaces, or even so for the whole team to get together, or like global teams to get together on the back of certain specific events. So there are some conversations going on around there, which are kind of pretty interesting, and it'll be interesting to see what happens moving forward. So, Michael, we have 15 minutes left. So I really wanted to ask a question, which is many of the audience that I've served, my tribe, most of them are like forward thinking, but there's a whole bunch that always highlights, okay, so what about growth? So can you've been doing all these things digitally, great. Can that, what does growth mean for you, and how can that be scaled? I think that's more to the point. And how that growth and scale, what does that mean for you moving forward?
So if they're like investors tuning in, we can scale this business like crazy. Now, for our model in particular, it's not easy to scale, right? And I think, scale is one thing, but again, it goes back to the audience. Like for us, if we say like, people say, can you just do this and just go into any market with your model? Yeah, of course we can, but we need that audience. So, unless you're close to that audience, it's not as easy to scale our model. If you're just a regular conference mill and you're just going to churn out content, you hire producers and you see what's, I know I'm not naming companies, but you worked at one of those back in the day, that would just, and so did I, that would just say, oh, like let's hire a bunch of producers out of college and have go, no go conversations and throw it out there. Scale for us, it's not as easy, but I think that's not really kind of the business that we're in. I think, but in the next year or two, we are looking, we're doing 8 events this year. Our plan is to do 11 next year, but we're actually going to be doubling up and do twice a year for some of our bigger markets, which we were planning to do prior to the pandemic. And now we really see the opportunity, mostly actually because, not mostly, but also partly because we see some of our competitors that were out there not coming strong out of this. So we do see some opportunities that people that are didn't invest in the right areas through over the past year.
I think you've hit it on the head, Michael, and I think I am very happy for you in the sense that you're like confidently saying so, because you're an individual that believed in communities, in the multi-touch point, and getting closer to the audience, adding value. It doesn't really mean, in some cases, if a sponsor is not suitable, you take the hit, you bite the bullet, and you just do it without being sponsored. Now you're laughing, honestly, and you said it with a little bit of a smirk, but I firmly believe that all the effort that you've put in, and many companies out there have been paying a lot of attention to the digital pivoting and what they've done. Now they're laughing because they're in a more comfortable place. Now they have better or bigger audiences, or the quality of the audiences has increased, right? And I think a credit to you. So on that sense, it's pretty good. One element that I wanted to, this is,
well, I just want to keep saying is that, and it may sound cliche when it says it, it's not credit to me, it's credit to our team. We have a really strong team that's been with us, from the beginning and for a number of years. So, it's a team effort.
And I just want to highlight again the fact that your model cannot be scaled doesn't mean that you guys as a business are not able to grow or to increase your revenues in X, Y, Z shape.
No, no, that's totally true. I mean, all of our events grow, have been growing for the most part, over very strongly over the last few years, and we definitely can scale. What I mean is, if we wanted to go into completely new territory that's totally not related to some of the markets that we're in, not to the built environment, we can maybe do 1 or 2 per year if we want to do that. And I think it still takes a good year or 2 years to validate and really build an audience to justify launching a live event. We can co-locate a few things, but our average size event, as I mentioned, is about 250 people. Don't get me wrong, we've run some a little bit smaller than that, and larger, but they're 3-day programs that bring on average, 30 to 40 sponsor companies. And we need that good 20 in order for it to be viable.
Right. Okay, Michael, I think there's some questions there, and I just really wanted to make sure that we are able to answer some of them. My final question, and I'm going to be a devil's advocate. I'm going to be kind of putting myself in the position of those people that I work with that are highly reluctant, non-believers in digital or anything like that. So, and specifically with the one-to-one model, the one-to-one meetings model. So can you achieve the one-to-one meeting model virtually in a hybrid environment? And how does that?
I'm sure you can, but it really depends on your audience and the buyer, right? If again, we're in 8 different industries. We're in senior housing, where actually that audience, we deal with CEOs. Most of them are not just going to tune in for a one-on-one meeting unless they really, really need that product or service. And a lot of times they're like, let's just do it on there. So we can broker and arrange those things. And we have been doing that. Again, going back to like us providing more of a white glove service, we actually were doing just that, like arranging one-on-one appointments as opposed to a block of, one-to-one meetings that would happen at a live event.
Right.
But there are other audiences, maybe more junior or mid-level that could work for. And depending on the vendor mix that you bring together. But I still just don't see it similar to what we do in a live setting, where we're mixing that experience with content, a beautiful resort, and bringing people together where they're not going to have the distractions like other tabs opening up in a window. It's kind of tough to organize a one-to-one meeting event format online. And I know there's a number of platforms that are out there that have gotten better. But there's nothing worse than when you're sitting on one end of the screen waiting for your meeting and it's black. And then you got to wait 20 minutes and the next meeting's supposed to start and the person's there and the connection's not there. It's just not the same.
Fine. Okay.
But if somebody, I'd love to hear some success with that model, from other people.
Well, it's just very interesting to hear it from you. You guys, that's your business model. You've been at it relentlessly without a fault, and it's interesting to get your thoughts and get your views. And that's kind of why essentially just means that you wouldn't have to find different ways to bring revenue into the business, probably purge some sponsors, bring some new ones, and just bring in new is reinvigorate the model. I guess what Adam was asking, and I think just probably open it to the audience for questions. Adam was asking about what percentage of your virtual sessions are you running non-commercial without sponsorship?
So yeah, that's a good question. To be honest, majority of them are running with sponsors. It really, but again, and we go back to our team and say, hey, look, we're running these themes. These are the topics that people want to talk about. And our content production team identifies companies that we think would be wonderful for these discussions that would add value. Again, not a sales rep, but one of their executives, a thought leadership opportunity. And we then go out and present that. And our team has been actually had a lot of success, presenting it that way. But looking back over the past year, it wasn't as easy to do that, of course, when companies had signed up for the live event and we said, hey, look, we got this opportunity, but do you have someone else in your team? And it's like, wait, that came from my budget. So now that we got through that part, the mitigation period, it's been easier. But we'll run roundtables with 3 or 4 people if we want, if we feel that it's going to add value. If someone says to us, hey, this is a really niche topic, throw it out there, we'll put it on the calendar. And I think that that's the important thing, right? At the end of the day, people then look at us and I say it's not just Influence Group, because the one we're doing is our higher ed facilities forum. people say Hef, that it's known in the industry, like Hef organized this thing and it was great. And it connected me with the right people. And hopefully when we do get back to live events or other things, that they're going to remember that.
Okay, good. So I guess the Simone Broadhurst is asking about, are you planning a hybrid element to your live events in autumn?
Oh man. No.
Right.
And mostly because I've started going down that rabbit hole in hybrid events and I still don't get it. And I know that that's going to sound to a lot of people like, oh man, I'm going to regret that saying that. But it's, when I see like I see people saying we're going to have hubs, like where there's going to be the main event and there's going to be the hub here. Like, really? It's either you go to the event or, of course, then you can digest the content online afterwards, and which we've done in the past. So at the moment, I don't see us doing that now. And plus the expenses of doing it the right way versus just saying, hey, we've got a live stream where people can tune in and out. I just don't see that anybody wants to sit in front of a screen and watch an event live, unless you're CES or something like that.
And I think but Michael, I think there's no reason why perhaps feeling uncomfortable saying, oh no, but let's not forget, and to the audience, let's not forget that the influence group has a multi-touch point strategy to be closer to their audience. It's not that they're like dropping digital or the digital offerings or the digital products in favor of.
Oh, sure. I'm just laughing because I saw like a clip the other day. If you know Bill Maher, like he came out and shit all over crypto, and it's like it's one of those clips, and it's like, is this going to age well in 10 years? And someone resurfaced a clip making fun of him showing a flip phone camera, like no one wants to take a right. picture with their phone. And so I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah. No, but I think, and Simone, and I think the danger sometimes comes when organizers are either ditching one thing that they thought didn't work because it wasn't as profitable or anything, then in favor of the live events, etc. And I think that's kind of in your defense, Michael. I think that's kind of a good.
Did you actually tune in, hop in, and we're a customer, and I'm not endorsing them in any way. It's been reliable. That's how I leave it. They did a hybrid, hybrid thing, like this whole big thing, the future of hybrid, and it didn't work. Like you literally logged in. For like the first 5 minutes, they had a DJ, and who the hell wants to log in and watch a live DJ, a virtual DJ? Like, I hope that's one thing we look back on, like in 2020, like no one gives a shit to tune in and watch a DJ live at noon. But then again, I'm surprised that I see people in the chat like, this is so great. But what people didn't realize, like after 10 minutes, which went too long to start with, they couldn't go live. So they did it a loop, and people realized it was a pre-recorded DJ. And I'm like, wait, this isn't hybrid. And then they kept on going, and you couldn't it was all pre-recorded stuff. So I don't know. I think that there's the virtual events world I'm a little sour on. When I say events, I think that you can do a series of things digitally, but I don't think that anybody wants to tune in and sit in front of the computer for more than an hour.
Yeah, and I think that's the fair point. And I think Shang, if it's there, by the way, Ashley or Carolina, can you put Ashley's, basically we've been mentioning the Creo group, and it's free for our audience to join, and everyone, as long as they're relevant.
It looks like he posted in there.
Oh, he did posted it? Okay, fine. He did it to the panelists. Oh, right, yeah, sorry. Yeah, that's fine. Sorry, never mind, Ashley. So, Sean was asking if, will you continue with roundtables and webinars after live events return?
Yeah, we're definitely. And we're really trying to figure out, there's other things that we are looking at right now. We are looking at more of a membership model for our attendees, not one that we're going to monetize, but really trying to align those two. It's funny because we're in the retail world, right? Omnichannel is everything. So we're looking to find the way that we kind of do that, right? Bridging the digital and physical together. And we are going to start also doing our mastermind series, meetups in small cities, for some of those key sponsors and our attendees too. So we've got a lot of things in the works, and we just set up our first international office, which I mentioned to you, which is not too far from you, Ricardo. And that's where our little studio is going to be.
Probably I might gotta go and pay you guys a visit. And
I think, yeah, I got to go pay a visit. I haven't been there yet. So
good. The other question, Edward, actually great that you've asked this question, because I think it's kind of I guess, holy grail. So you talked about the sponsors, getting the sponsor to understand and act constructively, to build a community, etc. So how do you guys guide the sponsors, or is there anything that you can, any tip or any advice on how you can guide your sponsors to jump with you on the new?
I mean, we it's just conversations. So once, the process is, once we bring a company on board that's getting involved in our digital, our content team will have a, meeting with them and explain that. I'm not going to pretend that at the beginning, with some companies that this is new to them and they're kind of used to, it's an awkward environment. And I think that we've come to realize that, again, it's not for everybody. I don't know if that's the right way to put it. I don't think we're in the business of training individuals or companies on how to interact digitally. But I think we do need, we're pretty strong and now realizing that, we need to set those expectations and be honest with people if we see that they're acting inappropriately, if that's the right word. I don't say inappropriately, but really not adding to the discussions.
I think that ultimately it's being choosy, being picky, and knowing exactly your sponsors, and some of them you're going to have to let them go, or as you said, put them on hold for a while.
But naturally, the ones that we would let go, I would imagine, probably won't want to come back,
right?
In that format. But the live event is going to be perfect for them. So they're more transactional. They want to get out. They want to get their product and talk, it's more spec about something they do, again, within the built environment, the way we work. And then we have the more strategic, consultancies and design firms and those types of companies that we work with that not only look at it as an opportunity to build rapport and establish, their thought leadership with our group, but also, down the line, really get an understanding of where their industry is going and their potential customers are. So they look at it as a voice of the customer opportunity as well.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. And I hope that we've kind of, Edward, that your question was answered. So Michael,
Can we drink tequila now?
Yes, probably do have the tequila. Right. I haven't got my aguardiente with me, which is similar to it. To everyone that stayed until the end, I really, really appreciate it. I'm seeing really kind of old friends' faces, connections. I really, really appreciate. I'm sure Michael would appreciate that you guys have stayed until the end. Michael, all the best of luck. It's always a pleasure having a chat with you. Salud. Cheers.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity, and thanks for all the work that you do, Ricardo. Obviously, it's a small industry with a big impact. So I think it's great to have someone like you in the middle, kind of, bringing us together and putting out all this great content. So thank you.
That's appreciated, Michael. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. See you in our episode 2. I'll send you all the details in the recording tomorrow, and see you soon, guys. Take care.
Take care.